Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Picture Show. As always, we are your hosts. My name is Bryn.
And I'm Noah. And Bryn, what are we talking about today?
Today is a very special episode as we are celebrating Noah's birthday just a couple weeks late in true us fashion. Um, so today Noah is going to kind of walk us through how he got here. What are the movies that made Noah? And Noah, you've shared a couple of these with me that you wanted to talk about today, but which one would you like to start with?
Have you seen all of the ones that I sent you?
I sure have.
Okay, good, 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 good. I want to start at the very beginning. There was a very special person to me when I was a little kid, Jackie Chan. I was obsessed with Jackie Chan. Did you ever watch his? He had a cartoon show. Did you watch the cartoon show of like Saturday morning cartoons growing up at all?
Which one was that?
There was like the talismans, and there was the uncle, and like the little girl Jade, and it was Jackie Chan. He was wearing like a blue sweater. It was just like an animated.
I don't think I
No?
have seen that. No, but now I want
Damn.
to.
I was obsessed with it as a kid. You could expect me to be seated every Saturday morning for Jackie Chan. Um, but then around the time I was like 5 or 6, we got a VHS of Rush Hour 2. And for the longest time, I never saw Rush Hour, but Rush Hour 2 did something to me as a kid. It really ignited something. I was like, damn, movies can be something really, really special. There's just something really, really fun about Jackie Chan. He's like our version of like a Charlie Chaplin or a Buster Keaton. He's so funny. He's so physically coordinated. There's something about his performance style that really only he can do. And I could not get enough of it as a kid. And then you have Chris Tucker, who to this day, there's something about Chris Tucker that is just so funny to me. But yeah, Rush Hour 2 is sort of like the white whale. There's something about it that is just so special. Maybe it's just, I think that is one movie I absolutely can only see through the rose colored glasses of nostalgia. Um, it was directed by Brett Ratner, and we try to forget about that because he's an awful, awful little man. So I like to just imagine that Rush Hour 2 is Jackie Chan's film through and through. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think of Rush Hour 2,
You just
Bryn? Let's chat about this.
so this is don't get mad at me for this. This is a movie I probably never would
Safe
have thought about
space.
again in my life. I probably never would have thought about it again had I not met you. Since day one of our friendship, you have told me that this is the movie that did it for you. Like this is the movie that like started it all.
Yeah.
And I
Cinephilia
have
Ground
so
Zero.
I have so many thoughts with that. One, why, which I would love to just hear more about in a second. But two,
Hmm.
I feel like that's proof that no matter what your art form is, no matter what you are doing to express yourself in life, that could end up being the reason that somebody gives a shit about whatever art platform you're creating on. I'm not sure that Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker went into this thinking, this sequel is going to be somebody's favorite movie someday. But
Man,
for a very specific person, like it started something very important, and I think that's so cool. But also, I don't know that I've ever asked for elaboration on that, and I would love to hear more about what it was about this specific sequel, out of all things, that did it for you.
I mean, I couldn't even explain why my family got just specifically that movie. Like, I really don't know why we just had that VHS of Rush Hour 2. But I could just watch it over and over and over again. I've always loved like martial arts. I watched the cartoon, so I think I was sort of already acquainted with who Jackie Chan was as like a very little kid. Um, But it was just the movie's a total blast. It goes by at like a breakneck pace, and it's just hilarious. And it's given me, I have this lifelong soft spot for any type of movie with kung fu, regardless of quality. Like, I love watching great kung fu, and Jackie Chan just finds the perfect way of marrying like excellent martial arts with perfect physical comedy. It's just really formative for me as a kid. And I gotta like kind of shout out the action scenes here because they are terrific. There's the scene in the massage parlor where he's fighting all the people and they're all in robes. And one thing I really love when it comes to fight scenes is when you can see the actor in total. You know, you have a full shot of the actor and a long take of them doing the action so you can actually see the physical skills on display. And that's something that pretty much every Jackie Chan movie has. Um, and I think just as a little kid, it just totally riveted me. Like when I wasn't laughing, I was like wide eyed in astonishment. It's just a
You
very
know, I can
memorable
see a
movie
lot
for a
of
little kid.
well, and clearly for you specifically, because I can see a lot of those parallels in a lot of the movies that you really enjoy. Like, for instance, Old Boy. I know that that one trailing shot of them fighting in the hallway was like,
Yes.
you talked about that for weeks after you saw it. And so I feel like I could see a lot of those similarities in a lot of the movies that really kind of grab your attention specifically.
Yeah, I mean, hey, when you watch Rush Hour 2 as a kid, you're bound to have high standards for the rest of your life. It's just a perfect film. It's like the Citizen Kane of movies. I don't know. I love a lot of Jackie Chan movies, but that's just sort of first in the memory.
I do love that consistently kung fu movies are being compared to Citizen Kane. That's becoming a theme.
I mean, Citizen Kane is a movie with its own terrific martial arts sequences. So we should edit out the awkward pause and just go straight to you laughing at that excellent joke. At that excellent joke.
That's all I've been
Yeah,
doing for our whole friendship is laughing at excellent jokes and definitely not having awkward pauses ever.
never, never, ever, ever. Not once that I can recall. Um, there's one actress in Rush Hour 2, though, that I need to single out really quick. Zhang Ziyi. She plays sort of the gangster girl who's a part of a lot of the intrigue of Rush Hour 2. But she was in another movie that really captured my attention as a young child. Another kung fu, yeah, I guess, movie called Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And I saw these both around the time I was 6, so I was just obsessed with like Chinese movies for some reason as a child. I am
Yeah.
kind of grateful for it though, because like I've never had an issue watching a subtitled movie. That's never, because when I was like 6 years old, I saw that they can be like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and it's like the coolest shit ever. How can you not
Yeah.
be like? How can you not want to check some of that shit out? Um, but yeah, she's terrific in both films.
I'm really glad that you wanted to talk about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, though, because I feel like that was also a pretty formative movie for me. I I feel like that movie is like the gateway drug to foreign film. That's a movie that like you watch it once and you turn around and you watch it again like immediately. It's beautifully done. It's just I mean that's it was what like three different countries came together to make that movie.
Yeah, it's
It's
like
a whole feat.
Taiwan,
Like that is a
China, and the U.S. I don't know. But yeah, it was
yeah.
a
Yeah.
huge phenomenon. Like, it was a huge
Yeah.
breakthrough foreign film because, like, everyone just saw it and loved it. Like, And I feel like that holds true today. I don't think I know anyone that doesn't enjoy that film. Like, I feel like to watch it is to love.
I ended up doing a lot of research on this movie like years ago, so my memory on it is a little fuzzy. But just like learning all of the different martial arts styles that came together that just melded into this like very beautiful, graceful, but still engaging style of martial arts. And it was just so fascinating.
Yeah. I don't really know too much about like the actual types of kung fu they're doing now that I think about it, and that is something I usually try to look into it. It's a film that's like in a long tradition of films out of China called wuxia films, which translates to like martial arts
Mhm.
hero, something like that. And this is a film I think most people remember for the combat scenes where they're flying around, and there's an incredible grace and style to the way they're flying and the way they're fighting, and it's
Mhm.
really gripping. And I think as a little kid, it's so easy to fall in love with like flying sword fighting warriors. Like that is so amazing. So, anyways, teach your kids to read so they can watch kung fu movies at a very young age because it'll do them good. But yeah, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Even today, I literally just rewatched it the other day for the purposes of talking about it, and it's so stunningly photographed. I love. There's a lot of films that don't have good subplots, but this is a film that really works the subplot romance in a really beautiful way. Because I love all the scenes with the young sword thief and the boy she falls in love with in the desert, and all the imagery is so evocative, and their relationship is so important to the course of the film. And I think the way the film measures it all out is a masterclass of structure, and just really giving you the depth to each character. And the fact that each character feels so well drawn and so deep, and you kind of really understand everyone and where they're coming from and what they want. Every fight is just so full of like emotion, and each one is a story unto itself unfolding between characters. Um, Even the fight scene that introduces two characters really just sort of gives you a lot of these people and who they are in just like a split second. It's really smart direction. But I think it's just something that anyone can enjoy. It just really sweeps you up.
One of the things that I've always really appreciated about it is how distinct each character is and how well they stand on their own. Like every person's storyline is so distinct and it all meshes together so beautifully, and it just creates this very comprehensive piece. And you're right, like the subplots that go along with it just, it's not distracting. It just kind of reinforces this experience that you're on. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I really don't even know what to say about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but you know what? Shout out Michelle Yeoh. She just won the Academy Award 2 years
I
ago now.
know.
But yeah, hey,
Yeah.
congratulations to my childhood hero. One of, but still,
She's
shout out Michelle Yeoh.
amazing.
Oh, she's so good in the
Absolutely.
movie
Yes.
too. She's so good in the movie. Yeah, the movie was a huge. We talked about it, but a huge breakthrough for foreign films in America. Like it grossed like the most that any foreign film had like to that point. It was
Hmm.
sort of like the Parasite before the Parasite phenomenon happened in 2019. But the movie went on to win like 4 Oscars. It was robbed of Best Picture. I'm sorry, Gladiator is fine, but Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is like that's a timeless classic. It just absolutely feels
Yeah,
timeless.
it is. And I do really feel like it kind of opened the door culturally. Like Chow Yun Fat was already a huge star in his own right, but then like
Hmm.
this very much kind of gave him that gateway into another culture and to really kind of get the spotlight in a different way. And I just feel like the movie as a whole really kind of did that for Chinese culture and for kind of the amalgamation of the two. And it's just so again, it's so fascinating to me to just be able to see this and kind of see everything that it did. I mean, this came out in 2000. Like, this was not necessarily still a progressive time. So it was,
Yeah, we'll
I
say
feel like
less
it was just
enlightened.
so,
That feels safe to say.
yeah, it is so culturally significant.
Yeah, we really can't say enough about it. If you haven't seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, you know what we're gonna say. You know what we're gonna say. Be ashamed of yourself. Get
Please
out
don't,
there and watch it. It's
please don't
available.
make us, don't make us tell you.
Like you're just gonna have the best time ever. It's fine. They're only flying around in the trees with swords. But yeah, moving on from those movies I that were really important to me as a little kid. Well, okay, we're moving on to a movie that was really important to me in fifth grade and onward. So I guess I was still a kid. But I think the first
You're still a
time
kid.
I really, I think the first time I really had like a favorite movie, like I saw a movie and I just fell so deeply in love with everything about it. It was Pan's Labyrinth by Guillermo del Toro. I think watching Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon set me up to love this movie because I had no issues with reading subtitles. None of that bothered me at all. But I remember seeing like the advertisements for this movie and being really like mystified by um, the image of her going into the tree. And I remember a friend of mine at the time talking about it and saying it was good. And I just really wanted to see it. And I begged and begged for a DVD. And I ended up getting it. And maybe I was a little young. Maybe I was a little young at the time. This is a pretty there's some gritty violence to this movie, but it is a movie that I have returned to time and time again, and I've shown everyone in my life because it really is just something so unique and so special, and it's a film with such a unique sense of magic that really has to be experienced. I know that this is one you really love as well, Bryn.
Absolutely. I mean, as well I should. I just got a tattoo of it on my arm, so um
Can we show it
I
for the visual audio?
so it's kind of hard to see, but I have Pan on my arm. He's the
Fine.
fawn, and he's kind of the one who guides her on her journey. But I feel like you're completely spot on. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was definitely like kind of the stepping stool to, really any other foreign film like we were talking about, but it really kind of allowed me to appreciate this so much more because I mean, Guillermo del Toro is brilliant in everything he does, and he kind of brings the same level of like tenacity to like all of his films, and you just get the same quality out of everything that he puts out. I mean, um, his newer show Cabinet of Curiosities, which is on Netflix, and if you haven't watched it, you definitely should.
I need to watch it.
He takes it's really good. He takes other people's stories and he kind of like brings them to life, but it's very much in his style, and it's as beautifully done as Pan's Labyrinth, as his other works. Like, it's just watching his films, like, you're going to get that quality out of it, and you're going to get that experience. And Pan's Labyrinth was just this magical and visceral and like very, it was very like juxtaposing between like this mystical place and like very much the violence of something very real that was happening in that time period. And you just feel like you're escaping when you're in it. It is a very magical experience. It is very almost like out of body, and it's so incredible. And I did see it when I was older, so I didn't watch it when I was quite in the fifth grade, but even now, like, I watch it and I'm in it. Like, I feel like I'm in a different world. It is so beautiful.
Yeah, and it's such a one-off. Like there's no sequels, no nothing. It's just its own singular piece of magic, which is really cool. If you haven't seen Pan's
And you
Labyrinth,
don't need it to
it's
be.
yeah, no, you absolutely don't. If you haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth, it's about a young girl who loves reading fairy tales and all this stuff. She's growing up in Spain during the fascist Franco dictatorship. Her father dies, and her mother remarries a officer, excuse me, and they go out to the country to accompany him where he's fighting rebels. And she's sort of set off down a path, a magical journey to reclaim her birth. But Guillermo del Toro, man, is such a he's such a unique director. Like he's one of those directors who's so distinctive. Like when his images are in front of you, you know who crafted them. There's a really specific way all his like creatures look and the lighting of the world. And I think this was a movie that really showed me how much one single person can have an effect on a movie as a whole. And that was really interesting to me. Like it wasn't just any like I obviously everyone has a really valuable contribution to this film. A bunch of great actors, a bunch of great effects work. Guillermo Navarro, one of the best shot movies I've ever seen in my life. Congrats, my boy. But Guillermo del Toro really is the thing that makes the movie tick. Um, he's just like a walking beating heart of a person. If you've ever seen an interview with him, I love the man so much, and he's so friendly. He's like a big living Mexican teddy bear. But then he makes these movies with such a like dark, visceral edge, but a genuine beauty, and he just is so well at finding the balance in those things. And he loves the rejects and the outcasts, and he hates fascists, and it just makes for really interesting movies every single time. Um, yeah, and Pan's Labyrinth is still to this day my favorite of his works.
And you're totally right. Like it, everything he does is so distinctively him. I mean, just it's the same as like you see a Wes Anderson movie, you know it's Wes Anderson. You see
Hmm.
a Guillermo del Toro movie, you know it's him. Like there's no mistaking it. And I his signature in film is so incredibly different than anything else you'll ever see. And I admire that so much just as somebody who has just been really deep in art my whole life. Like, that is something that is inspirational to me, is like seeing that kind of footprint that somebody can have in their own pieces.
It really comes to mind with his creature designs. I think more than anything
Mm-hmm.
from Guillermo del Toro, like he's always got some sort of weird little freak running around, and they always just look so cool. You just know that it's something from his mind. And yeah, Bryn has Pan's best little freak. There's many freaks, but the fawn is truly a stunning creation. When he sort of breaks himself loose from the earth to talk to the girl and shakes it all off, like you really feel like he's this ancient magic being. And shout out to the actor playing the fawn. Doesn't speak any Spanish at all. He learned all of his lines phonetically, and just like he just sounds perfect too. But he's really, really exceptional. But
Also,
yeah,
have
there's
you seen pictures have you seen pictures of that actor in the apparatus that is the fawn's costume?
yes with the legs,
That
and it's really impressive.
that's so cool. Like, that's talent to be able to
Yeah,
manipulate that contraption and also to learn all of your lines in a different language for your role.
yes, and to just breathe such life into it, because the fawn feels so real. I think of all the magical creations of the film, the fawn feels like something you might really see. Like there's a lot of
Yeah,
beautiful, evocative imagery in this, and the fawn is just he's definitely the thing that sticks out in the mind. I was just so taken with it when I was a
absolutely.
kid. But yeah, that was like the first time
Mm-hmm.
I really found a film. Like I felt like I found that for myself and loved it so much that it became a favorite. That was like a really powerful movie experience for me, and it's one I carry with me in my heart to this day. Like I love Pan's Labyrinth. I watch it at least once a year. I guess moving on now. I have a film that this was a huge friendship movie for Bryn and I. I first saw this when I was, I think, a senior in high school, which was sort of like when I was really making my major pivot into cinephilia and like really starting to seek more and more out and widen my horizons. And I had never seen a Stanley Kubrick movie. I was going through a lot of the American classics, and I chose 2001 A Space Odyssey. And I've never been the same. It's a huge milestone, I think, in any cinephile's journey. Um, but it's something that you just can't prepare for, and it's something that is so, I think, ingrained in popular culture, whether you know it or not, that like it's
Yeah.
really it's really a whole different world after you see 2001 A Space Odyssey.
Was this, did we watch this together the first time, or did we watch this at the same time, like simultaneously, coincidentally? I don't remember.
I feel like I don't think we watched it together. I feel like I told you to watch it because I watched it. Because then I feel like
I
we went
don't.
and hung out and we swung on those swings and talked about it for like an hour. Do you remember swinging
Oh,
on
it
the
was
swings talking
longer
about
than
this?
that. Yes,
Oh yeah,
I
minimum,
do. And
minimum.
we talked about it for a long time.
Maybe we
Like
did watch it
sunset, we
together.
talked about it. I don't remember. I have a vague memory of watching it by myself, but I also know that after I watched it the first time, I watched it like 6 times after that. I watched this movie
Yeah,
for like weeks on end.
it just feels like it's full of mysteries that you need to uncover. It's like The Shining,
I mean,
his other movie, his only
which
other no.
that's another one I have tattooed on me, but we'll get there later.
Yeah,
Um,
different episode, different episode.
so this was not my first Kubrick movie, but I would argue that this is the most important movie in our friendship. Like
Hmm.
this Black Dynamite close second, but like this was transformational for both of us. Like this was a whole
Yes,
experience.
it was a real like click moment. Like it's hard to explain, but movies, they just look different to you after you watch this. I think
Yeah.
one thing I remember us both talking about and loving a lot was just the precision and the intent of pretty much every aspect, every music cue, every,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's hard to, because it's a movie that's not really quick, it's not in a hurry. There's a whole first third that was just recently parodied by Barbie, about monkeys. Uh, it's a really strange movie. Um, at least it's a really strange American movie. It's maybe the greatest sci-fi film of all time. Like Star Wars, get fucked.
It does take its time, and I think that's, largely because it's a narrative on the span of history, between like before
Great way to look
man,
at it.
after man. Like it, but that's another reason why for me it's so easy to sit and watch, because there is so much to think about while
Hmm.
you watch it. Like this is the movie that I talk about when I talk about loving movies that make you think, because you will not get through this without it really kind of like
Making
churning
you
your
ask
brain. Like,
questions. Yeah.
yes, and it makes you curious. It makes you want to understand, want to know more. And it doesn't give you more. Like it just leaves you with those questions. And it's still to this day, there are so many things that I am curious about with it. And I love that I will never have that answer, but I just get to keep enjoying it and keep going back to it and having more questions and thinking more on it and having more to talk about. And again, I think this was a huge turning point for us in how we looked at movies as a whole.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I was really struck by it because it's full of really big decisions. Like, this is a movie that is really bold and really decisive and really effective, um, basically, with every single thing it's doing. And it's not always doing what you would just like imagine a normal movie to do. It's really finding its own path. It's so hard to explain how powerful it is. Like there are sounds from this movie that I will be hearing on my deathbed. There's a sound of a choir when you're next to this. There's this dark obelisk that's a big part of the movie, and there's
Mm.
these like really discordant and dissonant voices that sort of swell up, and it's really effective. And there's another scene where you just hear the breathing apparatus of a suit. And it's all these really bold, effective choices that I think just sort of were really important to me in understanding how movies get made and the types of things that you can do with them and the ways that you can manipulate film to affect people's emotions. Do you have anything more to say about it? I mean, you probably always have
I
something more to say
have
about it.
I have endless things to say about this. There's so much, but everything about this movie is intentional. Like there's no aspect of this that just happened to work out. Every piece of it was thought out from start to finish, and it inspires me every single time I watch it. Like it reminds me why I love movies. Like that's what gets it going for me again.
A lot of the magic is in the details. I love the way that
Mm-hmm.
they do like zero grab in this film. There's a scene with like there's basically space
Yeah,
flight
yeah,
attendants, and they have these like cute little Velcro shoes that help them walk around. It's just like genius. It's all those little touches that really make it so great. Um, and as much as there is a lot of the way in the details and the little touches, this is a film that really shows you that when you swing for the fences, you hit home runs. Because this film is so packed with ideas, crazy ideas that I don't even think the movie is sure about. But it's just kind of like going at for it in a way that like is still refreshing in 2024 as it was in 1968.
yeah,
And it's incredible that it came
yeah.
out in 1968. It looks beautiful.
And it's not a movie that will ever hand anything to you. Like
Yes.
you're never going to get an explanation for what you're seeing or what you're experiencing. And I love that because you
Yes.
can get so much out of it that way. Like everybody is going to see this differently.
Yeah, it's definitely a film that invites you to ask questions, and definitely invites you to sort of come up with your own ideas about what's happening, but in a way that
Yeah.
doesn't feel like a chore, in a way that feels like a genuine pleasure to uncover. And I also just got a shout out. I was saying this movie does things in a sort of unexpected way. Has maybe the best movie villain of all time. And I mean, for those that have seen the movie, you of course know what I'm talking about. But for anyone that doesn't, I just kind of want to leave it a secret because when you discover sort of the evil force, not evil, that's a weird way to put it, but the antagonistic force of 2001, A Space Odyssey, it's it's just really thrilling, and everything that happens in that little story is just I think about it all the time. It's food for thought, at the very least.
But even that makes you feel something so deeply. Like even the
Yeah,
end to that antagonist part, like oh
really
my god,
unexpected. Yeah,
I like teared up a little bit. It got me. And I never would have expected that from that kind of antagonist.
yeah. It's just a film that you can't predict. You just have to watch it. But yeah, so that was a really formative film for both of us. But this is my birthday episode,
Yeah.
Bren. So we're gonna move on to our final title here. Whoa, whoa. Um,
I'll see myself out. Damn.
Another really big stop on my cinephile journey. Had I seen this when you were still here? When you, or not
Yeah, because
here?
we
I guess
watched it
we're
together.
in
Well,
Montana.
you watched it and you called me that day and you made me come over to watch it with you again.
That same day. Okay. Yes. Yes. I remember that on my laptop. So okay. Right after high school, I was really in, I think, full cinephile swing, and I was consuming everything I possibly could. Um, I wasn't as unemployed as you would think. I had some jobs in there, but I was mostly just watching. I was mostly just watching movies.
Can I put that
But
on a resume? Not as unemployed as you
unemployed as you
think.
might, it's like, what's this gap in your resume? Well, not what you might think.
I wasn't as unemployed as it looks.
Yeah, it says on your resume here 2013 to 2020 just watching movies. Um, but
Full
yeah,
time job.
I was just sort of consuming everything I could find, and one way I was doing it was looking at like any list I could find of like the greatest movies ever made, anything that might have something I might not have heard of that I needed to check out. And I came across the Sight and Sound top 250 list, and they poll. Um, this came out in 2012, and then they just had another one in 2022. But the 2012 one, 2012, excuse me, 2012 one is the one I was using. And working my way down the list, I had seen a couple of these movies, and then at 14 was a movie I had never heard of called Late Spring. And it was just a really interesting little black and white photo, and it seemed really unassuming. And so I was just like, I got to see why this movie I've never heard of is like more than 1,000 people have ranked this as one of the best movies of all time. And I looked on YouTube, and Late Spring is still available to watch on YouTube, as well as HBO Max and the Criterion Channel. Um, but I just saw something when I watched Late Spring on YouTube on a laptop lying down on my chest that I never expected to see. It's a movie that is so quiet and so gentle and so relaxed that ends up just hitting you like a sledgehammer by the end. It woke me up more than any movie we've discussed today on the full like capabilities of what a film can be and can do, because the way this director Yasujiro Ozu makes films is so unique and so hard to like really do justice to in just a conversation. But I would say that if you're a fan of the style of people like Wes Anderson with like a really meticulous sort of visual style, Yasujiro Ozu was the master of film composition, and every single frame of his films, no matter like what's happening, is just it's just composed to utter perfection. The balance of everything in the image, the light, um, it's just really interesting and really evocative to me. And I think the fact that it's not hurried and it's very personal, it just struck me in a way no movie had ever thought about. And I think it would take an enormous amount of bravery to make movies like this, because most people want spectacle and they want pizzazz and razzle dazzle, and they don't want to think about anything. They just want to go, they want to see some flashing lights, and they want to leave. And there's something about this film and this director that, even though it's very cinematically stylized, there's something very real and very human about it, that just touched me incredibly deeply when I saw it, and I was never the same. And there's a shot of a vase in Late Spring that I have immortalized on my arm right there. Um, but yeah, it's a film of unmatched power to me, and we can get a little more into it. But I know that I've made you watch this. Have you ever rewatched it? It's not an easy rewatch because it's pretty sad, but
Well, and I have no problem with sad movies. I listen.
not on
I'm a
this
Cancer. I love
podcast.
crying. No.
We got our Aries and our Cancer here. We'll do our whole zodiacs if we get enough of you asking.
And it'll make so much sense why we are the way we are. Anyway, but but when you had watched this the first time and you had called me and you said, "I need you to come down here right now. I need you to watch this," I was expecting something like grandiose. Like I was expecting something that was like very much like
Like Lawrence of Arabia.
this has to be
Yeah.
substantial for it to be this urgent. Not that I'm against, like it doesn't take much for me to watch a movie. Like you're like, hey, I'm gonna watch this. I'm like, okay, cool, me too. But for it to be that urgent, I was like, this has to be like something really, really powerful. And kind of the whole time I'm watching it, and I'm kind of waiting for something big to happen, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, it is such a peaceful experience. It is such a, I don't really want to stick the word somber on it, but it is almost a somber
It's
experience, but it
contemplative.
is
It's, yeah,
so, it is.
meditative.
But it is so gentle. It is such a gentle experience. I think that's a perfect word for it. And I I can say that it helped me kind of view the potential for movies in a different way. But I think more than anything, I saw that change for you in what you saw movies could be. Like,
Yeah,
I
you probably
watched this
saw that
whole like
change in
shift for
me
you.
more than anybody. You probably saw that change in me. That's
I did.
crazy. That's
And
crazy.
it, it's really cool because that's kind of like watching somebody like grow, you know? And so I think I saw it change how you sought out movies. Like, you looked at prioritizing film experiences differently. And that was really cool. And I think that the best and the most impactful movies out there do that for people. It changes the way that they experience art, it changes the way that they experience film, changes the way they experience life. Like, it is so cool to see that shift in somebody, and I definitely think that this movie was so powerful in doing that for you, to the point where it inspired you to go out and start creating your own pieces.
Well, okay. So this movie was hugely impactful on my personal aesthetics and really my personal philosophies about life. A lot of Ozu's works have meant a lot to me and have changed the way that I've thought. And this was one movie of a few that heavily inspired a short film that I made with Bryn here. I cooked up this original idea in my head, but I hate dialogue. I don't consider myself a writer at all. Bryn here is like the script lover. Bryn is a terrific writer, so I kind of came to her with my basic idea, um, and together we sort of crafted out this film with the help of our friend Winny. Shout out Winny, and our friend Thomas Keith. Shout out Thomas. Um, but yeah, really, just we kind of came together, and after I saw Late Spring, I just knew that like I could make something. Like it could be something, it didn't have to be anything crazy. It just had to mean something to me. And I don't know. I've got a lot of complex feelings about that short film, but I really love it and I'm really proud of it. Um yeah, I need to contact Thomas and see if I can get like a USB stick with it on it just in case. I hope it never gets lost to the ether.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube if you ever want
It
to find it.
is.
But it also makes me
Yeah.
nervous to promote. I don't know. It's very personal. It's very interesting.
I
I
I
look
had
back
to
on
put
it
it
and I would
out
have
there
made different
because
choices, but it was what it became in the moment. I think that's very special.
yes. And for how young we were at the time, and for where we were in our lives, and for it being our first go at making a short film,
Our
I am
first go at
still
making anything.
immensely anything. I am still so immensely proud of it. I mean, yes, there
Hmm.
are things that looking back I'm like, but overall I am so proud of what came out of that. But I think that, going back to the topic, like, I think that this movie really did that for you. I feel like it really kind of changed your perspective and really
It
kind of
really
like
did.
opened you up to like the ideas of not only what you can consume but what you can create. And it doesn't
Hmm.
have to be this huge big punch in the face kind of like, this has to mean something and make a statement and be everything. Like, it can just
Be
be, and it
you
can
just
just
make
be beautiful.
Yeah. I'll never forget the first time watching Late Spring, and there's just like a lot of specific moments in it that just like really sort of like stopped my breath for a second for whatever reason. There's a shot of just magazines falling off of a chair. That's a weird one to pull out of my head, but I remember it like because it happens after a really tense scene, and the way it happens is it's just a really interesting way to punctuate a scene. There's a really unique flavor of editing in Ozu films, um, but yeah, so Late Spring, just to give you a quick rundown of what it's about a woman in the, you might say, late spring of her life. She's getting to be maybe a little bit past marrying age in Japan, which, just post-war Japan, that's a pretty significant deal. And she takes care of her father. Her and her father live together alone, and she takes care of him because he's elderly. But sort of the family is sort of pushing him to sort of try and marry her off, and that's the crux of the film. But I think what's so surprising about the film is what it chooses to show you and what it chooses not to show you. It's just really interesting to see what the film thinks is important to these people and these characters, or like what's important to show about these characters, and maybe less what's important to them. But it's really really fascinating in that aspect. And then with his stylistic approach, he always has the camera very very low, pointed slightly up. The camera is never more than a few inches off of the ground, so you get these really interesting sort of full body portraits of people where you almost feel like a child. And then you get these dialogue scenes where people are sitting down on their mats around a kotatsu or whatever, and they're chatting, and suddenly you're like between all these people, and it's incredibly intimate, and it's incredibly unique stylistically, and it's just an interesting way to sort of commit like the Japanese culture of the time to film, like the sitting on the floor, and it was such an important part of his aesthetic to him that it was a sort of pain in the ass for the studios because they had to build sets with roofs because you could see the roofs. So I don't know. It's just it's really interesting because his style is so meticulous, but the product is so gentle and sweet and very real. It's just real people's lives, real things that happen to us. And even though it's about all these people in Japan in the 40s and the 50s, he just really finds what's human about it. He really is able to find what's important to the human and not like any other aspect. It's just really, really touching. And I cannot say enough about how this artist has changed my life. I got one more thing to say on that. There's a philosophy that his films really exemplify called Mano no Aware, which is an awareness of the bittersweet, transient aspect of all things. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is permanent, and the way his films explore that and nothingness and letting go and all these really abstract concepts through things we all know and that are familiar, I think is unparalleled in film history. And his films are more or less sacred to me.
That's
Anyways,
amazing. No, but I mean, it's genuine, and I think if I think what makes a movie really timeless, or any piece really, is your ability to relate to the characters and to the situation. And you have these people in a completely different time period, a completely different culture, a completely different language than yourself, and you're finding yourself like with them. You said it's very intimate, but like that comes very much across in the messaging, and like kind of you feel like you are with these people. And
mhm,
I think that it really really begs kind of like the human experience. And I think that this his films in general, but this movie specifically, I feel like these are the kinds of things that people today really need. Um,
Yes, that's a
just
really interesting way to put
almost,
it. I hadn't thought about that.
almost for like it's like it's almost cathartic, you know,
Mhm.
like you can step into this and feel like you're with these people, and I think that people really need that in a world that honestly feels very lonely and very much like we're kind of fending for ourselves right now. Like everybody is so much in survival mode. I feel like people could so use something like this that really kind of just takes a gentle look at what being human is.
Yeah. It is a film I hope everyone at some point in their life seeks out. It is a slow, quiet movie. It is maybe testing of the patience if you're not used to what Yasujiro does and how his movies work. But it is a film that is incredibly rewarding of that patience, I think. But
Definitely.
yeah, my favorite movie of all time. Still to this day. But yeah, that's a little journey with Noah through the years. There's a lot of movies I could have put on here, Bryn. Like you've been pestering me
Oh,
about
I
this
know.
since
I
my
know.
birthday 17 days ago. But another movie I loved growing, I almost talked about Amadeus. I was obsessed with Amadeus as a kid. My sisters loved that movie, and so we had the DVD, and they would watch all the time, and I'd be sat right there with them. Vienna in the 1600. Let's go. Let's go. Loved that movie. Just rewatched it for the first time in years recently. I watched Chicago a bunch as a
That one's
kid.
also. Oh, I love Chicago.
I remember not caring that much for Chicago, and then I did rewatch that one recently as well, just feeling nostalgic, and I liked it a little more than I remember. So, congrats, Chicago. Catherine Zeta-Jones is fantastic in that film. Fantastic in that
Yeah.
film. But yeah,
Yeah. That's one
Amadeus.
that I used
Those
to
were some
watch
good
with my
ones.
mom.
It's so
Amadeus is
interesting.
definitely that's one that you gotta carve out some time to sit down and watch.
Yeah, why was I watching these movies as a kid? That's so funny. I'm like obsessed with 3 hour movies about conductors that hate each other. Composers. Not to but yeah. I don't know, man. I had a really weird, I think, like, because I did watch a lot of the Disney films I think a lot of people watched, but then, like, I was also, like, so obsessed with shit like Rush Hour. Like, it's really just interesting, I think, to me.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that we were normal kids to begin with, but the
No,
fact
big
that
ass
we,
nerds.
spent perfectly nice summer days watching shit like Lawrence of Arabia.
Hey, Lawrence of Arabia
It,
is a goaded movie. It's so
it,
amazing. I've seen it in
it is.
theaters twice
It's
now.
so good. Wow.
Way better than the DVD, Brent. The double-sided DVD we had to
Can't
switch
imagine
over halfway
why.
through. Oh man. Oh man. Yeah, there's a couple other things I could have done. Like we could have discussed like all the nerd franchises that we loved growing up. Because like I know we all watched Harry Potter and Star Wars, and I'm sure there's that Lord of the
I was
Rings.
always very okay. Lord of the Rings.
Fucking
That
love
was
Lord
my
of the
nerd
Rings.
franchise. I don't even know that I've honest to God, I don't know that I've seen all of the Harry Potter movies. I definitely didn't read the books. But
What?
Lord of the Rings, I will regularly watch the extended versions of. I love those.
Listen, J.K. Rowling needs to take a long walk off a short pier and never return. But those Harry Potter movies, kind of fun. Kind of fun. I
They
still
are
love them.
fun. I just don't think I've seen them all.
That's fair. Um, you know, I don't think I ever watched all the Hunger Games movies. Now that I think about it, I
I
don't think I watched
definitely
any of the
didn't.
third ones.
I
I watched
think I
one and
watched
two.
the first one.
Hunger Games, much better books. Much better books. But yeah, we definitely could have talked about all that. I don't know. There was a lot of ways to interpret how to do a birthday episode. I didn't know what I was gonna do. A couple I don't know, but it was fun. It was fun. I want to show you what I got for my birthday. I don't know if you can tell what that is just by looking at it, but you're gonna love this, Bryn. This is my birthday gift from Katie.
Oh, I can't wait.
God damn, I'm still not good at it. It clinks too much, but let me try this again a little better, and you can edit that out. I could do this all day. But yeah, a
I
mouth
know
harp.
you
Isn't
could.
that fun?
That is so fun. That's so fun.
Yeah,
For
I
all of
was really
our
fucking
listeners,
excited.
I am so sure you were. For all of our listeners, this is not a new thing for Noah. He collects just really kind of any odd instrument he can get his hands on. So this is not the first time. Certainly will not be the last.
I got the didgeridoo
There
right
it
here.
is. I knew that was coming out. I knew it was happening.
It's actually kind of ridiculous how many things I have just like available to me right. We need music for this podcast, Bryn. I think I could write something. I could cook something up. That's an ambulance going away.
It sounds like a dying. I was gonna say, it sounds like a dying siren. You thought you were watching a film podcast? Joke's on you. It's now a musical.
But yeah, I don't know. It was a fun birthday. I just worked this year. I'm definitely happy to be doing my birthday podcast several weeks after the fact. That's much more my style. I kept this whole episode. I wanted to
Things
ask
more
you. Well, I wanted to ask you like, what were some formative movies for you? I gotta wait. It's so weird that it's my birthday. I gotta wait. I want to be chatting. I feel like I just jabbered this whole
well,
episode.
I mean, it's your episode. You should jabber.
That's fair.
Don't
Next
worry.
year, I'm gonna
I'll
choose
jabber.
something crazier. I'm gonna choose something much wilder.
I have a fun, crazy idea kind of in mind for my birthday episode, so I'll
Okay.
save all my jabbering for then. But
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for watching this birthday edition of the Picture Show podcast. Join us in the coming weeks when we discuss several films that were in competition at the Cannes Film Festival to celebrate the festival happening in May. And can I tell them what our next episode's going to be? I'm kind of excited about it.
yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
please join us next time when we discuss White Chicks and Some Like It Hot. Very, very excited for those.
And as always, don't forget to follow all of our socials. Those will be up on the screen. Thank you so, so much for joining us on this very special episode to help celebrate Noah's birthday. And we will see you all next time. Bye!
Deuces.